a fundamentally new understanding of self-organization. And as mentioned before, at the end of the meeting, I would like to hear from you whether it was new to you or if at least a few pieces were new to you. So before I start, is there anything important left to be said? So the agenda is here. Do you need something to know, some immediate comment? So feel free now. And also, whenever you have questions or impulses or memories you want to share, please use the chat as well. So we can have a look at the chat after my impulse, what I'm going to give here. Okie dokie. So what people usually say about the meaning of self-organization. I mean, we all have our experiences with self-organization. And in 2019, I did this session already, and I asked people, what is self-organization for you? So we have here the German and the English answers. Some say, yeah, doing meaningful things. It's about decision processes. Some say even it's about efficiency. Yeah, some say it's about planning and focusing and to manage all business needs in time. So, or not to be so chaotic anymore. So you see, whenever we talk about self-organization, people have many different starting points. And what I want to do today is to bring it down to one simple thing that maybe we can all start gathering around this simple thing. Some people are working in organizations like this one here, and they are using, let's say, organizational frameworks like holacracy or sociocracy in order to let self-organization more arise. Today, I will not talk about these companies. I will not talk about frameworks like holacracy or sociocracy. Today, I would like to talk about the self-organization as such. Whenever you are interested in the work of these organizations and these frameworks, Christiane Seuss-Schöller, there's a YouTube video you can have a look at, and you can also reach out to her. So these are companies working with frameworks facilitating self-organization, but we will get to the core of self-organization. And the core of self-organization is the self, das Selbst in German. So it's about us. And for me, in 2019, it was a really light moment when we met Professor Julius Kuhl from the University of Osnabrück. He has developed over his lifetime the PSI theory. It's personal system interaction theory. And for me, this is the most universal, the most simple psychological theory, which basically I can apply to any other models. So that's the charm of it. And that's the unique point I like. I always challenge it against new models, the integral theory, etc., etc. You can always use it because for me that's the foundation. And the foundation of his theory is that every person has a kind of self. It's a non-conscious, intuitive network of personal experiences. And that's the most important thing about the self. And I would like to go deeper how this self, which is in us, can become self-organization, what levers we could have in order to foster self-organization. And I will also give you some first small steps, how you can unleash more of yourself to be more self-organized. So, the self. So we have these beautiful pictures from Michel Gower. Gaula, which I could use to create this PowerPoint presentation. And she displayed here very beautifully in a person, the left and the right brain side. And if it comes to neuroscience, so scientists believe that the self is more located in the right hemisphere. And the right hemisphere is able to receive signals from wherever, from the left hemisphere, maybe also from outside, and it's creating a kind of patterns, universal patterns. And the self, if we locate the self into our right hemisphere, but it's basically connected to the whole body, maybe this is only the processing unit to process all the impulses which it gets. It loves to recognize and embody self-coherent experiences and patterns. We will come to it what a self-coherent experience could be. So take this picture as this is self-coherent, this is fitting together in a way. This self, so if you'd like to go deeper, you can visit these books from Professor Julius Kuhl, and also here together with Meyer Storch. He developed this book, The Kraft aus dem Self, which is more practical, and this is more, I would say, scientific, but this is one of the best books I ever read in that matter. Coming back to the self has beautiful features. The self is capable to do a parallel processing. Yeah, so it can assess many things at the same time. Here, the left-hand hemisphere is not able to do that. Also, we started to use this symbol here, this broken circle for the self, because it's open to intuition. So to say it in the words of Leonard Cohen's song, there's a crack in everything that the light comes in, or the light gets in. So it's very important that the self is a growing network of personal experiences, and we don't know where our intuition sometimes comes from, that somebody is calling at the right moment. So we don't know how this goes together, but we know our self is recognizing it, noticing it, and it also displays it in our body with sensations. So it's affecting it. So we can sense it, and we can really put it into our consciousness after being received. And we all know that our self is the place of beauty, the place of creativity, and many more things here. The self is not at itself. There's always his companion, the I, the Ich, and which is, let's say, the left-hand brain side, and we can also neuroscientifically locate it to the left-hand brain side, and it has different features, and it has a kind of sequential processing. Yeah, it's not doing things at the same time, so many things, so it's doing it sequentially. We can think sequentially, we can count, we can assess, we can calculate, judge, yeah, and also the I is also able to create patterns, but these patterns are completely different to the patterns the self is doing. And maybe you all know, working in companies, in frameworks, in families, the I is creating a kind of pattern for itself. And maybe that's not fully coherent or consistent to the universal self pattern. So these are more the artificial patterns, what our eyes are creating. Yeah, so I'm trying to express something in a structure which is more or less artificial. The self has got a universal pattern. So if you look at this picture, so you have seen it now for a second. If you try to remember what you have seen, yeah, you may you're not able to express it all at once what yourself has seen. I mean, you're able to express there has been colors, there has been formulas, but you do it sequentially because now your eye is at work. If we again go here, you see yourself is working. You can see many, many different things at the same time. Yeah, you can see, there's a left-hand brain side, a right hand, colorful stuff, functions, charts, etc. But once I have to express it, I have to do it sequentially. And the self is capable to do it all at the same time. And that's the phenomenon. Okay, my English is to be improved. Okay, another picture about the self and the I can be displayed here by this picture. It's very important. These two neural systems are fully detached from each other. So these are two different parts in our brain, and they are only connected via the spine. So the wirbelsäule and all the nerves which are going through the spine. And that's from a physical point of view also very important to know. So these two systems are separated. So the right-hand side, again, the self with its universal patterns, colorful creativity, and the left-hand brain side very much connected to thinking, doing things sequentially, etc., etc. So just to remind you one thing, if we talk about this I, we do not talk about the ego. Ego is not the same like I. Ego is a kind of emotion. Yeah. If I put too much emphasis on my I and I want to be this and that, this is the ego. But the I is a functional system of the brain. And this is there. And it's not too much emotional. It's an analytical, etc., system. And the self is the creative system. So then let's come to the second part of the word self, organization. So we've been talking about the self, the right-hand brain side, and now we talk about organization. And I think many of us think about an organization, a hierarchical structure, or something else. But looking to the Greek word organon, which means something to accomplish, or it's a tool to do something. And I like this example very much. So Geo is the earth, and org is the work. So I'm the earth worker. So basically it means organization is work. It's putting everything together to a viable whole in this sense. And it's rather something more active than a passive, rigid structure. So work is something very, very active, to do something and not to rest with it. And when we come to our common understanding of organizations, we usually think about that one here. But that's not organization in the Greek sense or in the meaning of self-organization. And that's also new. In the meaning and in the word of self-organization, it means organization is work. It's not resting, it's moving, it's doing, it's addressing it. That's the thing, what we talk about here. And then if we put together the word self and the word organization, so it's the work, what we have to do between the I and the self. So you remember the two brain sides? They are fully physically detached. The self is getting impulses, insights, it's sensing the body, and the I is starting to think, it's starting to calculate, it's also starting to focus on dangers. So it can have a look, there's something, I need to pull something out of this universal stuff in order to see this is a fear or a threat that I have to run away from. And the I and the self, they are working together all the time. We cannot avoid it. So we're doing it anyhow. But we can do it more consciously, and we can do it in a different way. So moving forward, in pictures would mean, so there are universal patterns in ourselves, in our full embodied system. And yeah, whenever we are able to integrate, let's say, our thoughts, our artificial patterns in a self-coherent way into these universal structures, so we are growing, and this our self is growing. And that's the core of the self-organization, so that we are basically doing inner work all the time. We are putting everything together into a viable whole, yeah, that it's becoming together, universally applicable for everyone. We are combining analytical things with the intuitive. And sometimes also we need to integrate challenges into oneself. Yeah, that's very important as well. So, and whenever we are successful, so where we recognize a self-coherent pattern, our body expresses it with happiness. The body is getting happier. And you can become happier the more you recognize self-coherent patterns. We will go a little bit deeper what self-coherent patterns could be. But before we go to that, I would like to outline two levers, also zwei Hebel, who foster self-organization and which are basically necessary to foster self-organization. The first one is encouragement and reassurance. So that means we need psychological safe spaces, a positive environment that we can be safe, that we can encourage each other. It's like the parents speaking with their children. Hey, you will make it. And also if there's something happening very weird or awful. So we reassure them, hey, we calm them down. Everything is all right. Next time it will gonna be better. This is a very, very important precondition that self-organization means recognizing self-coherent patterns can happen. On the opposite, and what we experience very, very often in our organizations, we are put under pressure. There's a culture of fear. Yeah, we have to pull the ceinture tight. We have to, resources are scarce. We have stress. And these environments inhibit self-growth. So they really stop you in growing yourself. And the second feature, I would say, to activate, to make self-organization successful is that we have access to the self. Because our self, let's say the right hand hemisphere or our body, is not always accessible. So sometimes we use a piece of music. So, and then, I melt down and I open myself. Or I start doing embodiment exercises, walking, jumping, and just to get an access to myself. At the beginning, we had this mass check-in. Maybe you felt it, that you open up a little bit. You feel kind of, oh, now I'm connected, or I have experienced something in my body. And this is self-activation. And this is very, very important. Also, if you meet with people, sit in a circle. That's something different than you sit in rows. And there are many, many more other ideas and methods and rights that you can activate yourself. But it's very, very important that you have access to yourself. Otherwise, you cannot integrate, let's say, artificial and new learned structures into the pattern of the self of universal structures. If we have a look at some environments which are negative or pressure generating, so we all know that this can lead to trauma. Yeah, if someone is pushing his idea to you from the rational point of view, we don't have enough money, or this costs too much, and you have to work harder. So there are many systems in our society in place which can, put you under pressure, that you're not able to do this inner work of translation into the universal pattern, and you will integrate forms and shapes which do not fit to your universal pattern. And this can lead to pathological things. You can have stress, burnout, etc., etc. So there are many things, and I think all of us have smaller and bigger trauma incorporated in ourselves, because there were not the time, not the room, not the space in order to digest all the signals coming from the outside world properly into ourselves. And there's also then a high recommendation sometimes to rework ourselves. And I will come now to the practices, what we can do on one side to rework everything what has been incorporated into ourselves without we want it, and also how can we do better in processing all the stuff what is coming from outside. But we know it's pretty tough for self-organization in our modern society. I mean, everything is basically focusing on more. Yeah, we think the more we have, the more freedom we have, but this is a kind of spiral, I would say. And also, we are very much trained on competition. So we are not allowed to share what we think. There are a lot of laws and restrictions that we cannot cooperate. So we are basically put into competition. And also everything, our whole language is about of scarcity. There's not enough money. There are not enough doctors. There are not enough this, not enough that. So we in our society have incorporated, let's say, tough elements which make self-organization not that easy. So a short summary of what I've been talking about until now, and then I will go into what can we do as small steps in order to be more self-organized. So the self is the non-conscious intuitive network of personal experiences. Organization means work, putting everything together. And self-organization means working on and with myself. So very, very important. And self-organization about such is recognizing self-coherent, and I would even say universal structures. What do I mean with self-coherent universal structures? Self-coherent, it does fit to my body, to my being, so I feel comfortable with it. And there's a strong belief that this pattern is also coherent to the structures of the universe. 2 requirements for self-organization: psychological safe space and self-activation. So very, very important. I can sit very calmly somewhere and I do not learn more in myself. I need to activate myself. So these 2 conditions are very important. Good. So short break. So people are leaving, I see. Are there any first comments before we go in the next, I would say 5 to 10 minutes talk? Okay, so I move on. So what are the first steps to unleash self-organization yourself? You can do it basically on many levels. I depicted 3 levels. So wherever you are working, wherever you are living, you can start working your self-work in the existing structure. You can try out new things every day. You can free up your agenda. You can slow down the process. You can see where are the positive environments, where are the negative environments. Find out what is good for me. So you can do it in every every structure, I would say. The second level where you can start working is, if you engage with other people in communities, you can start supporting others without they have been asking you, or you can do less. You can slow down the process. That's very important. So if you start engaging in teams, in communities differently, you get the feedback to yourself, and the organization or the team will see how you do it differently. And a third level is about, if you go to a whole company, or if you consider the whole society, you can start dialogues, go to events, or even not go to events if you want to. So you cannot listen to the news anymore if you want to change something, if you don't want to believe what has been said. So if you want to find out yourself, you can decide yourself, am I putting my presence there or not? So these are 3 levels where you can immediately do something. And what does it mean doing something? So I try to explain this now on these 3 levels: on the level of person, on the level of corporate structures, and on the level of society. You should do very much a differentiation. What is currently, let's say, the activated system? Is currently the self-activated or the I-activated sometimes? You have to differentiate between the I and the self. The I is thinking where it should go, and the self is your whole body is responding, is this correct or not? And we very often ignore the self. The body, the emotions say stop, but the I says, no, I have to do it, and I do it. And then maybe I fail, and I suffer. So it's very much important to differentiate between the I and the self. Which system is currently driving me? Putting this on a corporate level, you can see it that way. So in the corporate, you are the person with all your good things. I mean, you are a person, that's it. But you have been hired for a role. You're an engineer, or you're a finance guy, or you're a lawyer. And sometimes if people in our companies say, we don't need that much lawyers anymore, and they make you redundant, you could think, it's because of me, because I did something wrong. No, it's simply the linear structures and the financial targets of systems like corporates. So they cut the role, but they do not cut you. And that's very important to distinguish between these 2 views, so the person and the role. And on a society level, it's important, for instance, what contribution your company is delivering. So if your company is, let's say, building military stuff, bombs and landmines, your contribution, I don't know if this is a contribution to peace, if others are hurt, etc. But you should be very clear about your contribution. So you choose the company, and you should know about the contribution. And also there you can have a differentiation on 3 different levels. And this is work which has to be done. And it's not coming by it. So if I just work because of the money, and I don't have a look left and a look right, and what my company is doing and how my company is treating people, so I'm ignoring that. And therefore, it's very important that we do and offer ourselves these rooms for self-organization, so that we give ourselves time for self reflection, give ourselves safe spaces where we can release our tensions, where we can work on our traumas, where we can get rid of all the stuff what we should not put into ourselves. Also in the corporate structure, I encourage everyone to find networks of trust, to find the people you trust, and where you can speak out, hey, my role is in danger, but my person, I'm still a good person, and I'm not someone who does not want to learn or who is against everything. No, it's about having these good environments where I can reflect myself in groups. And with these groups, I should make agreements in order to cooperate better. And it's very, very good being in groups, communities, networks to receive feedback, because this feedback is not conditional. Yeah, if you go to a line function, so sometimes this feedback is very conditional because there's this contractual relationship. So you can find these arenas where you learn more about you. And on the society level, yeah, we can simply more listen to each other and also find safe dialogue rooms. Yeah. Unfortunately, some institutions like church and also politicians sometimes, there's no dialogue happening. There's one person speaking and we cannot respond. So one action could be not going there anymore, because if there's no chance to influence this society, so why should I go there and spend my energy? So it's very important. It's your decision what's the contribution of the company or institution you're joining. Yes, one or two slides, more slides to go. Don't worry. What I can share from myself is what I did the recent years and what I hope fully can continue doing. Every year I find a retreat where I spend some time for myself with others to think about me, to reflect what is happening, to processing maybe things and trauma which I did not really work out so far. Empathic relationships is a very important thing. So find empathic relationships every day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, or try to find only empathic relationships. If you are not so clear about you and or you are used to writing, so write your journal, Tagebuch schreiben, etc., journaling. Very important to get more insight about yourself. So this is that what you can do with yourself. In corporate structures, we had it already. Informal networks, talk with others, visit learning communities, and start doing more meaningful stuff. I mean, many things you yourself immediately knows that this is not gonna work. So sometimes you are forced to do it, but do only as much as you have to do to survive. And the rest is focus on the meaningful stuff. And if you are very clear about yourself, we all can trust you that you know what is meaningful. And on the society level, we had it as well. Being skeptical of all these manipulative advertisements, what you get everywhere. So if it's not immediately affecting yourself, or yourself is not reacting correspondingly positively, so leave it away. Don't go there anymore. Yeah, you can read the things what you like to read and start sharing who you are, how you are evolving. Do it on social networks, etc. So it's up to you. And why are we doing this? Why should we do this? So because this is the core of reinventing organizations. So if we all start engaging more on this level, so we are reinventing organizations, and it's not up to the chief executive officer to reinvent organizations. It's up to all of us. So I encourage you to become more self, to do more this inner work, and on all the levels, on the self level, on the corporate level, on the society level, and then we have a benefit, all of us. And this is, let's say, the aim what we are looking at in our company, that we combine the hierarchical management system with, let's say, the informal network, with the community system at the same time. And you might recognize that on organizational level, it's the same structure. You have the self here and the I there. So, and this is a fractal organizational development. If we start from this understanding in our brain, triangle here, circle there, and I move this on a corporate level, so it's growing and growing, and It's I would say, a universal pattern. And it's always the question, how do we want to meet each other? Yeah. If you look at these pictures, if we come from the I-driven, yeah, I'm the boss, I have to say, I'm the ruler, people will adjust in a triangle to you, and they will create artificial patterns. And then you ask yourself, hey, why I am in such an artificial pattern? So why don't they see the issue? Why don't they hear me? It's because we sometimes come with the I. And if we come more with the self, with the triangle, with the circular part of us, which is universal, people gather in a circular way as well. They start seeing each other. They start speaking to each other in an open and authentic way. And therefore, it's so important that we are very clear about what is our self, what is our I, because this has an impact on our corporate structures. Yeah. What do we do in T-Systems and Deutsche Telekom to engage more in this arena? So we offer learnings for self-organization because it's not evident. Yeah, we had it before. We are in a very competitive and stress and capitalistic driven world. So how could we learn it? So we offer self-organization learning tracks that we learn becoming more ourselves, sensing more ourselves, finding out where do we have our traumas, etc. Once we are a bit more advanced, we can learn methods and habits to build communities that people meet more in the circular way of life rather than the triangular way of life. And at the end, we encourage everyone to build their own communities, community learning. So basically, if you are self-organized, you can invite your people and you can make your community yourself on the corporate level, but also on the private level. And that's what we would love to see.